Hi, my name is Dr. Wellenbach. I teach Latin here at CM, and I'm also the chair of the World Languages Department. I'm in my second year here at Catholic Memorial. In addition to teaching Latin, I coach soccer, and I'm also the moderator of the National Honor Society. I did my undergraduate degree at Williams College, which is in Williamstown, Massachusetts. And immediately after that, I went to Brown University, where I got my PhD in classics. The story of how I came to Williams is a little complicated. I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted in a college. And so I sort of did what I was supposed to do. I took my SATs, got those out of the way by the end of my junior year. And then the summer between junior and senior year, I toured a bunch of different colleges. And I looked all over the place, in the Northeast, in the Midwest, sort of in the Mid-Atlantic as well, urban, suburban, rural. I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. And so I went to all these places, and then I think after that, I realized I wanted a place that was maybe a little smaller, a place that was definitely focused on academics, and also a place where I could develop close relationships with my professors. And so after going through all these schools, I decided on Williams, which is a very small school, only about 2,000 students in Massachusetts. It's known for its really excellent faculty. It's also a beautiful campus. It's a rural campus, and so that drew me to it as well. For me, some of my most memorable moments at Williams, there's the really hard tests I remember studying for, and the sporting events I went to. I also played on the club Frisbee team, and my senior year we qualified for the national championship tournament, and that was a huge deal. We were a small school, drawing from 2,000 kids. It was a men's team, so really just half of that. And we were going up against UC Berkeley that's got 45, 50,000 kids, and we could go toe-to-toe with them and even beat them. So that was great. So there are all those big milestones from my time at Williams, but also what stands out is just sort of the everyday things, the spending time in the dining hall with my friends, walking from class to class with my classmates, getting to know someone who I hadn't known beforehand. My junior year at Williams, I actually studied abroad the whole year. I didn't spend any time on Williams campus my junior year. But I went with a special study abroad program run by Williams at Oxford in England. And so I was with all Williams kids, but we just happened to be in England. And there were a lot of other students there who I had never met before. Williams is a small place. It might be weird not to have met someone, but there were actually students I had never met before. And so I developed whole new friendships when I was at Oxford, which was really great. And that, for me, stands out as a very memorable year during my time there. So the way I got to Brown is actually related to the time I spent in Oxford. So the college in England works a little different than college in the US. In the US, you might take a Latin course and then an econ course and math and English all in one semester. When you're in England, you tend to just focus on one thing at a time, and you actually usually only take one or two courses at a time. So I went to England, and it was sort of a test for me to see whether I actually really liked studying Latin and Greek as much as I thought I did. My whole year there, all I did was study Latin and Greek. And the setup there is also different in that instead of going to lecture and taking a midterm and a final and maybe writing a paper here or there, all you do every single week is research papers the whole time. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. You're reading hundreds of pages of writing of books and articles every week, and then you're trying to synthesize that and come up with a new research paper every single week. So that was a really intense experience, really intense experience. But I realized I liked that sort of work. I liked the independence. I wasn't spending a lot of time in class, listening to lectures. I was doing a lot of the work on my own. I had to get myself to the library and find the books I needed. It wasn't just given to me or laid out for me to go and take. Instead, I had to find it. And so that is sort of similar to what grad school is like eventually. If you're working to get a PhD, you're going to have to do work on your own. You're going to have to take the initiative on your own. You're going to have to read a lot. You're going to have to write a lot. So after that year at Oxford, I said, okay, I like this. I'm good at it. I love the subject. I want to keep doing it. And so then that led me to want to go to grad school in classics and Latin and Greek. And then eventually I ended up at Brown for a lot of the same reasons I went to Williams. It was for grad programs. It was a little bit smaller. There was really great professors there, and they seemed to have really good relationships with the other grad students. So that's like the consistent thing and wherever I've been. I've always been looking for close-knit communities and also good, close relationships between teachers and students. I think there's a couple pieces of advice I'd give to our juniors and seniors who are thinking or getting ready to apply to college. And that is, one, figure out what you want to do and be honest with yourself. And then once you figure that out, express that ideal to as many different people as you can, right? Tell as many other people as you can about your wish for yourself. And this is actually a funny story from when I was applying to college. Like I said, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do, what type of school I wanted to go to. So I applied to all different types of places, urban, suburban, rural, a little bigger, a little smaller. And eventually I ended up on the small rural. But there was one place in particular that I went, I visited. I was not the biggest fan of it. I just didn't really like it. But my mom really wanted me to apply to the school, like really, really wanted me to apply to the school. So much that she kept pushing me to think about it some more. Even after I told her, I think it wasn't for me, she kept pushing me. No, I want you to apply here, man. I want you to apply here. So I went back a second time. So I went there once and I said, it's not for me. I went back a second time, tried it again. I still didn't like it. Still wasn't for me. But my mom was still really insistent. She said, no, I think this would be a good fit for you. I want you to apply here. I think part of it was me. I wasn't able to explain really why I didn't like it. It was just sort of more of I just don't like it. But eventually, it comes along to winter break, and my mom keeps asking, have you submitted your application to X school? And I said, no, I haven't done it yet, right? It's coming up to the deadline. And finally, like 2 or 3 days beforehand, my mom gets to me and she says, you have to submit this. You have to submit this application. You have to do it. And I say, all right. I go up to the computer in the house where I do my application, and I begrudgingly do the application, and I sort of sabotage myself. Maybe intentionally. It's like it might be subconsciously, unconsciously. I had to do 2 essays for it, and I think I was just so annoyed at having to apply to this place that I knew I didn't want to go to. That I ended up sending the same essay for both prompts, and lo and behold, I was not accepted to that school. I told my parents this after the fact, and they weren't too happy with me. And it all worked out fine. I was happy at Williams. They were happy I went to Williams. And the other thing is, this school that I never wanted to go to, I did not want to go to, is actually where my now wife, went to school. So I've actually spent plenty of time at the school since then, just because I happened to marry a woman who went to the school. So everything sort of comes full circle. But I would say to the students, know what you want, right? I wasn't able to say I didn't want to go to this school because of X. And I think if I had been able to say that, things might have turned out differently. And then my other piece of advice is related in terms of knowing what you want. So when I got into a couple of different schools. And when I got into all those schools, it was time to decide. I took a little time deciding where exactly I wanted to go. But then, once I decided on Williams, I was set. And I had other options that I think would have been, maybe easier options to go to. I was the only student from my high school to go to Williams. And in fact, after I decided to go there and I got in and I decided to go there, I went with my college counselor and we tried to look back through files to see, when's the last time someone from my high school went to Williams. And it had been like 15 years or like 16, 17 years since anyone from my high school went to Williams. And so by that point, by April of senior year, I knew what I wanted, right? I knew I wanted that really small school. I wanted, that rural setting and everything. And I was sort of giving up the chance to go to school. By going to Williams, I was giving up the chance to go to school with, 10 or 15 of my classmates some other place. And I'm sure I would have been happy at those other places. I really do think I would have been happy. But I knew deep down that Williams was really where I wanted to go, and it was the best fit for me, and so I went with it. So, don't be afraid to do what you think is best for yourself in these situations. Go to that school that your friends have never even heard of, let alone thought of going. If you know it's good for you, then I think it'll turn out well.